Hello, how is everybody? This is a brief test, just trying to see how everything is working. I'd like to introduce myself. I know I don't have really any followers, but you can't get any followers until you start doing streams. And so that's why I'm here. So I just thought I would do a little test stream and make sure everything is working, make sure my streaming key is all set, and just otherwise making sure everything is good to go. Give people a chance to see a live video, perhaps even click in, read the description. All these things are going to be important for having people around to interact with and discuss these myths that we'd like to review and build over time. So that is pretty much the gist of what's going on here today. Don't expect to get really anything done. Just like I said, a little test. Um, like I said, a little test. And it does seem like the stream key is working. So that's coming through. That's good. I'm not feeling very well today, so my voice does not probably sound as good as it could. But again, just a test, seeing how these things work, um, seeing how things feel on the stream. I have not streamed on YouTube in quite some time, so it does seem like things have changed a little bit, and the way you hook up is a little different. Your chat box is a little different. All these things are just a little different, and I'm getting used to them now. See, someone's here, and that is almost certainly my friend, and I appreciate that. But yeah, we're just doing a little test stream here with my congested voice to make sure that everything's coming through and that my video plays, and it is looking pretty clean. So, just to put something of value on this, I will let anybody who is watching or might watch in the future know that my introduction video pretty much walks you through the goal of the channel. And overall, what I'd like to do is sort of play investigator, researcher, and storyteller. So the idea is that once we have a myth that we'd like to investigate, probably use certain tools like ChatGPT. I know some people are not a fan of AI, and I have questions about it myself, but the alternative are books, which I have in plenty, but they're harder to share on the screen. They are slower for researching, and they will drag the process down to a rate at which I don't think will keep up to the pace people expect on digital entertainment and on streaming. So instead, we're going to use things like ChatGPT so we can do really quick searches and get really high view background on myths that we're looking into, along with a really granular level in which we'll likely find the differences and distinctions between different versions of the myth. So, like I said, we're going to use the AI. I'll be showing those screens and I'll be chatting with people. So, if people have ideas, hey, I heard this version of a myth. You should look that up. You should check out this version of the myth. It was recorded by this group or that group, and then I can go and pursue those. So ChatGPT is probably going to be the best research option. Now, that said, the live episodes won't be the only time I will do some research. I'll be doing research in between the episodes. And so if there are book sources that either the viewers recommend or I personally know about, I'll go get those in between live sessions, and I will photocopy them or make digital pictures that I can share with you so that we can all see the same research and we all know what we're doing. Once we kind of gather up all these little bits, the facts that we can gather, the various versions of stories, which are obviously anything but facts, to have them all in one place, we can start to go through them and start to lay out a timeline. And what I expect is we'll have places where there's only one or two versions of a story, But then we'll get to other points in the timeline where there are many, maybe half dozen or even a dozen variations of a particular myth or story that lies within a myth. Um, I think the example I gave on the intro video is a good one. Cessair in the Irish Book of Invasions is one of the leaders of the first people to come to Ireland. And in that story, depending on which version you're hearing of it, some will try to connect her to biblical characters. And, it's important to keep in mind that that's likely happening because we are getting the stories of a non writing people through a writing people, and those writing people were Christian monks or Catholic monks. And so their stories of origin are from the Bible. They have the flood, they have Noah. And so what it seems to me they tried to do was to connect Cessair with those stories because, well, I don't know why. It could be because they wanted the people who know those stories to feel connected to their biblical stories so they would accept them easier. It could also be just because in their minds there can only have been one origin, and so the Irish origins, in order to make sense, must be placed within the greater context of the Christian origins. This is possible. Either way, it is likely not the original story because the Christian stories came after these early Irish myths that now form the Book of Invasions. So we can be fairly certain that it was never said in the original that Cessair was the granddaughter of Noah, as it is in some of the later versions. And so we can pretty much rule that out as being the official version. So we have to look through all the other versions of who Cessair is. Sometimes they link her to Scythia, sometimes they link her to Greece, which again seems to be a sort of tying into the classical world, a way of linking these new peoples with the old, which may or may not be true. People certainly did move around, and Ireland was almost certainly populated at first by people from the east, be that Greece, Scythia, northern India. There are certain comparisons to be made between the pre-Celtic words and the Indo-European languages that came out of northern India and their mixtures with European populations. So all these things are of great interest to me, and I think when we go to get into the story, we will have several of these versions, and it will just become really a discussion between interested parties, between which of these stories seem the most authentic or fit the recreated authentic story that we are trying to build. At the end of the day, it's the motive, I think, that matters. We are not trying to frame these stories in a new light. We're trying to frame them in an old light, which we may not understand well enough to do, but we can certainly try. And we'll probably get a better result than people who were intentionally trying to put their own filters on these things. And that is the goal for that part. Then we're going to clean it up. We'll choose the versions we like, craft a whole story, and then I will try my best to put together a telling that has the vibe, the essence of a bard's telling, something that we can consider the official version for us in this Hall of Lore. And that, I think, is going to pretty much wrap up the description of what that program is going to be. Myth Weaver, the Myth Loom, Mythic Loom. Going on from there, the rest of the show will build programs, I hope. People's suggestions will help with that. I certainly have some ideas about it, like reviewing certain programs that come on TV that touch on certain historic topics of myth or lore. I've seen many on Celts, Romans, ancient Chinese, Indian, Native American. There are many to choose from, and all these shows are out there, so we could do reviews on them. We could talk about what we like about how they covered the material and what we didn't. All of these things are fair game here. But the first program will be that Mythic Loom, and it is going to take the focus of my attention, the bulk of my attention. It will be my focus, and I hope people will come and join me, subscribe, so that when I announce a live broadcast, it's not just that I want views. I think this will all be much more interesting when there are multiple voices adding into the conversation rather than just mine. Well, speaking of my voice and the need for it to end occasionally, I will end this stream. And hopefully, a few more people will find us and they will sub, and we will continue this conversation with a larger group in the future. Thank you all very much for joining, and I will talk to you again soon. Take care.